Hi, I'm Diane Morton-Gattullo, and welcome to another episode of Warehouse 34. And this is filmed at the beautiful location of CTV in Staten Island. I have a very, very special guest. All of my guests are special because I love everybody I have on the show. Everyone is handpicked. But this particular person I know for decades, and he has entertained everyone with his amazing voice, his great personality, and his sense of humor that is off the hook. I would like to introduce my very dear friend, Carl Thomas.
Hi, Diane. Happy to be here today. It's been a long time, and I guess we went full circle.
That's right, that's right. I remember, seeing you perform in packed houses all over the place.
20-some odd years ago.
Yes, yeah.
When I got really back in the business back then.
Packed homes. Yep. I mean, every house you owned that I saw you in.
Yeah.
And every face in that crowd was a face with a great story attached to it, with a lot of love for you in that, in those spaces.
And the people that we met, we made closer. We got closer and closer as the years went on. It was very nice. It's still great. I still see people from back then that remember a lot of stories that I might have forgotten because I've been to so many other venues and places and parts of the country that you lose something once in a while. But a guy or a lady would remind me of a particular time of the career that I've had.
I think that's the
continue to have.
But that's the amazing experience that what I've come to understand with you performing is that it's not that you just get up there, you make your money and you leave. You invest in relationships with everyone.
Right. Right.
And that's somewhat unusual in the industry, as you know.
Yep.
That you have created great friends out of fellow performers, agents, the people who own the venues, besides your fan base. You have a strong body of work that's surrounded by really strong friendships.
And we keep in touch. We still keep in touch.
And you've always been humble.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're on a stage in New York City or you're up in Vegas, doing a crazy big show.
Right.
You've always been very humble, which impresses me because to me, that is probably one of the most important qualities in a person is to be humble.
Well, when I got really back into the business in a professional level, my mother always said to me, "Carl, you're going to you're meeting up with a lot of people. Just be yourself." Who knew me better than my mother? Nobody.
Absolutely.
Okay? And she said, your personality, don't overdo it, don't underdo it, just be yourself. And believe me, they'll like you a lot more by you being yourself as opposed to trying to create something that's just not you. But I practiced that all my life.
But that's the right way to be.
Exactly.
It really is. I mean, I know you from Brooklyn, which as anybody who watches the show, even though the show is aired in conjunction with Staten Island, and I love Staten Island, I live here now. Everyone knows Brooklyn is, on my heart.
Yeah.
I wear it on my sleeve. It's my favorite place on the face of the earth.
Like most Staten Islanders, yeah.
But I know you from Brooklyn.
Yep.
And so what area are you from?
I was born and raised in Gravesend, Brooklyn. Then we moved to Bensonhurst. And at about 15 years old, I hooked up with a bunch of guys, musicians, and all amateur guys like myself, 15 years old. And I always sang. I started off in military school at 13 years old playing the drums.
Military school?
I went to military school.
Did you go to LaSalle?
No, I went to Stella Niagara Military Academy in Niagara Falls.
Wow.
Then I went to St. Pat's Military Academy in Harriman, New York.
Oof.
So in both places, I played the drums in one place, I played the tenor sax in the other place. But when I got home, when I got back to the neighborhood at 15 or close to 16 years old, we started a rock and roll group called the Jades. And these days, I'm still in touch with a couple of the guys that played in the group.
Wow.
My friend Mikey Piccarelli, my friend Tony Scotto, my friend Tommy Pianelli. We still get together once in a while and reminisce about, and we go to Buccelli's to eat once a month.
Oh, how fun.
On a Thursday night, yeah, so it's fun. And I'm the only guy that stayed in the business. So like I said, at 15 years old, but then, things fell apart when you're when you're a kid, you don't know what's going on. So long story short, I got out of the business. I went into my own business at 20 years old. I got into the produce business at 20 years old. And then at 25 years old, I got married, had 3 kids. And when the children were just about old enough to realize, you know, what to do, what we taught them, and have good judgment about life itself, I decided to get back into the business in 1997. So in 1997, I got together with a band leader. His name was Sonny Daniels, and he worked in a place called the Red Blazer 2 on 46th Street and 8th Avenue. Around the corner from this theater was this nightclub was the theater that Jackie Mason was working in. So I had met Jackie Mason on a casual acquaintance, most of the time in Dangerfields. I was friendly with Rodney, and the guy, Danny, that used to work the door, I got friendly with him. I used to go see Jackie Mason all the time in Dangerfields. So I had the nerve to write a note, because I knew back in the day, the little conversations that we had, him and I knew he loved the big band sound. Wow. Here I am in the Red Blazer 2, 46th Street and 8th Avenue, with a 17-piece orchestra, have all my charts, doing mostly Sinatra, or all Sinatra, because that's what they wanted. I forgot the name of the guy that owned the place. Anyway, so I wrote a note. Hi, Jackie, my name is Carl Thomas. I met you at such and such a place so many years ago, or whatever. Please, if you can, if you got time, come and say hello to me at the Red Blazer. Sure enough, that night he comes in. Wow. I'm in the middle of the song. He disrupts the whole place. Who's this guy, Carl Thomas? Leave me a message. I want to talk to this guy. Stop the band. I want to talk to you. Are you Carl Thomas? I'm talking to you. And he's going through a whole thing.
Oh, the crowd must have gone crazy.
And Henny Youngman was in the crowd, too. Oh. Henny was hysterical laughing. So now he brings me, after my set, brings me to sit with him, with a bunch of people, and we start talking. And he says to me, I'm working on your career right now. Are you working on my career right now? That's right. I'm going to take you on the road. We're going to do a few things together. You know what? You got a fantastic thing. Sinatra, he can. I said, well, Sinatra's passed away. That's why I don't sound too good anymore. Anyway, we keep breaking my chops. And it took him about a year at least to give me a gig. But I was in the coffee business back in the day, wholesale coffee.
I remember well.
Right. So it didn't matter if I was making money with entertainment. I always took it as a hobby, casual. Never really thought I was going to get into the big time with anything. Never cared about it. Sure enough.
Well, you had a very successful coffee business.
Oh, I had yeah.
Very successful.
My business was great.
I do need to apologize for stripping your espresso machines repeatedly in almost every place I worked at, because you had all the coffee accounts. Right. And I would get yelled at by our mutual friends. Yeah. Why do you got to break the machine? So I'm apologizing now publicly.
All right, yeah. So in that year time that I never got a day's work from this guy, we're going out at least once a week, to different places in the city. And my wife is saying to me, Carl, this guy, when is he going to give you work? I said, it doesn't matter. I'm having a ball with this guy. Right. It's a dream come true to hang out with him and Pat Cooper. I was already friendly with Pat Cooper at the time. And we did a show at the Staten Island, the country club. I
don't know if we're going to have enough time today in an hour show to get through all of your friends.
It's crazy.
Because you have a lot of great friends, and a lot that we have mutual friends.
Right. So anyway, fast forward, a year later, he asks me to go to Las Vegas with him at the Sahara Hotel for a month, the month of July. You got it. We get on a plane, we go to Vegas, and we're doing one show a night, 7 nights a week, and everybody's coming to see us. I can't tell you how many people, friends of mine and relatives of mine, came from New York or Florida to come and see the show in Vegas. Wow. But Tony Curtis was there all the time. Engelbert's brother was there all the time. Everybody came.
Well, there was a camaraderie in the industry that you would go, when you had that relationship with somebody, you would go to their show.
Right.
It wouldn't be like, oh, well, I'm Engelbert and I'm not going to anyone else's show. They, the decent ones would go and travel and support each other.
Right, but a lot of actors came to see us. So anyway, long story short, we did that for a month. Then after that, now we're really going full force. So between Pat Cooper, I'm filling in with Pat Cooper, but I'm working a lot more with Jackie Mason, and I wound up going to the Sands in Atlantic City. I'm the only guy that went from the main room to the lounge. That's a funny story in itself. But anyway, I'm doing my Sinatra stuff. I'm doing a little bit of Bobby Darin. And I asked this gentleman, Bob Chambers, who was the entertainment director, for a headliner shot in the Copa room of the Sands in Atlantic City. He's calm. What you do, I got guys online waiting to do Sinatra. He says, you got to come up with something different. So that rang a bell. So in 1998, the end of 1998, or the beginning of 1999, my musical director, his name is Ed Conti, him and I created a show around Bobby Darin's life story.
Oh, wow.
Okay? I go back to Atlantic City, opening for Jackie and a guy named Sal Richards.
Oh, I loved Sal.
Sal
God
was
bless
great.
his soul.
He
passed away.
And so did Jackie Mason, died a
Yeah.
year and a half ago. And I did 40 minutes of Bobby Darin. I come off the stage, and Bob Chapman says, "Now you got something," he says. "I'm going to put you as a headliner doing a Bobby Darin show. How do you want to market the show?" I says, "Carl Thomas sings strictly Darin." And that's exactly what he did. And I worked there 3 years in a row.
Wow.
I mean, I only had 3 nights a year, but I worked there 3 years in a row.
Other people couldn't get one night.
Right.
So.
And very successful. And then after that, I created a show because of people want to hear Sinatra, between Sinatra's music, Bobby Darin's music, Louis Prima, Dean Martin, Al Martino, who is my very close friend. I created a show called A Night at the Copa, because the Copacabana was the place.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
the place, not only in New York City,
Yeah.
but also the Copa Room in Las Vegas was the most famous entertainment room back then in the 70s and 60s and whatever else. So I created the show A Night at the Copa, and believe it or not, Diane, it still works. After all these years, it still works.
Before we have so much to talk about, but before the night ends, we're going to talk about all your Copa experiences, because you have some really great events, and one I'm actually participating in.
Right.
So yeah, we'll definitely get into that. I want to hear, how did you meet Pat Cooper?
Pat Cooper, I did a gig one time in a place, and he was coming on after me. I was a track act, just doing my own music. And I'm on the stage, and it was a corporate event, and I was doing my 40 minutes, say, and he literally stopped and listened to me do my show instead of speaking to people in the green room. When I got done, he says, "You do a nice job." He says, "You want to work with me?" I said, "I would love to work with you." I says, "Pat, you got to understand something. Since I'm a kid, your album, Our Hero, I knew it inside out. My mother almost threw me out of the house because I recited that album day and night. It's very obvious why people murmur when I walk into the room. I know the album inside
Right.
out." And we hooked up, and we did the South Shore Country Club.
Yes.
When I came out of Vegas with Jackie Mason, the gentleman that owned the South Shore Country Club, I met him at the bank one day. He says, "Carl, you're hot as a pistol." And I was getting a lot of press in the Staten Island Advance. He says, "I'd love for you to do a show here, at the country club." I said, "I live right down the block anyway, it's no problem." He says, "Who do you think you'd like to work with?" I says, Pat Cooper would be a better price and a better audience for an Italian
Right.
community. Jackie Mason was already making, big money. So I called up Pat. I said, "Pat, I got something, in mind if you'd like to do it." He says, "What do you got?" I says, "South Shore Country Club, this and that." He says, we're in. I bring Sonny Dane's orchestra, 17-piece band.
Wow.
We set up outdoors. Thank God the weather was great, because, you take a shot when you book something for an outdoor event. We overpacked the room. Thank God it was outdoors, because they could have kept spreading people out.
Right.
But I mean, it was ridiculous. We had to have maybe over 1,000 people in this event.
Oof.
And
And people actually still talk about the event.
right. And believe it or not, Pat Cooper was born on July 31st. And all the years that we're together over 20-some, about 25, 26 years now, I have not missed his birthday. He's living in Vegas for 5 years. I fly to Vegas every July, and we spend his birthday, my wife and myself, together, and his wife.
Break the mystique, because most people who, I know Pat, so I know what a, piece of bread he is, and just what, yeah.
Gentleman.
But,
And very, 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 very generous.
oh my God.
Very generous.
Just personality-wise, he's generous with his soul.
That's
And
right.
he's generous with his friendship. He's a great person. But I mean, and that's because I know him, but you know him so much better. And most people just know him as, Pat Cooper, and that he
The
can
comedian.
be, yeah, crazy. So share with everybody what he really is as a human being. Because Pat is so much more than the screaming guy, and the funny jokes. He's just such a decent person.
Well, I'll tell you the kind of guy he is, and this just happened yesterday. Last week, I called him up, and I spoke to his wife. Her name is Emily. And they're running out of this olive oil that I introduced to him a long time ago. It's Madre Sicilia olive oil. You can't get it other than Pastosa. Mm-hmm. So I get 2 bottles. I send him that and some homemade super sod. Calls me up yesterday. Carl, what are you doing? I said, what's the matter? He says, I got to send you a check. I said, Pat, please, are you kidding me? Okay. I can't tell you, in front of me, before he left for Vegas 5 years ago, he wrote a check to St. Jude for $100,000. And that's not the first time. Mm-hmm. He sends money to the Wounded Warriors, animal shelters and stuff. The guy doesn't know when to stop and when.
People don't know that about him, though.
Very, very,
they just know
very
him,
considerate. I never met anybody like him. Him and Tony Orlando.
Lovely
Gentleman's
person.
gentleman. The
really
best.
Lovely person.
The absolute best man. You don't have to ask him for something. If he knows you need it, he's going to help you. He put me back in Vegas, too.
I grew up listening to Tony Orlando and Dawn, and I was at the Friars Club walking down the stairs, and I don't know, it's when I used to wear heels when I could. I can't wear heels anymore. My feet are horrible. And my heel...
Me too. I don't wear them anymore.
And my heel got stuck, and I fell. Like, when you see a girl and her heel gets stuck and she's on the stairs,
right.
Literally in the air, I landed on Tony Orlando. Yeah. I look up, I'm like, oh, I'm going to die. I can't believe I did that. He's like, it's okay, don't worry. He goes, girls fall for me all the time. Like, he knew I was so embarrassed and I was going to cry. And he stands me up and he cleans off my clothes and, straightening my jacket and everything. And then our mutual friend, which was one of his producers, Tony Camillo, who's passed on also, walks over and he's like, oh, you guys met? And I'm like, I fell on him. He's like, you fell for him? And he's like, I should go tell your husband. I'm like, no, I literally fell on him. I don't know how I didn't break the guy's neck.
Wonderful guy.
He was so sweet to me.
Well, thanks to Johnny Patillo, who used to host a show here. I think it was at the Hop, I think it was called. I got to know Tony Orlando. And I went to Maryland to go see a show there. And we were there for 3 nights. And nobody could pick up a check with this guy. It's amazing how this man is. He's just amazing.
He also has a long memory. So when he was at the St. George Theater, we took Tony Camillo there. Mm-hmm. We weren't in the front. We were, towards the back, but, the bottom of the pit.
Right.
Maybe the middle of the pit.
Right.
And he spotted him from the stage, and he stopped the show to put the light on Tony and to express his tremendous gratitude that if it wasn't for Tony, he would have never become, Tony Orlando. And he made Tony Camillo stand up. He made him cry. Literally, Tony Camillo was crying.
Very humble man.
And he made everybody give him a round of applause. We took Tony Camillo because, they were still friends and stuff all the decades later, but Tony wanted to just see Tony Orlando perform, just as, because he loved his music. We had no idea, no expectation that Tony Orlando would literally stop his own show.
Right.
And just lay out, a tremendous carpet of gratitude for somebody who, helped him get into the business.
Yep.
A really nice person.
Well, when he met me and then knew what I was doing as far as the Bobby Darin show, he wrote me a little note and on one of his headshots, thanking me to keep Bobby Darin's music alive after all these years that not many people, I don't think anybody's really doing a Bobby Darin show, And at that time, back then, in the early 2000s. So he was very, very happy that I recreated Bobby Darin's music, and I keep it going. Until today, I still keep it going.
What's your favorite genre of music?
I love the 60s.
Yeah?
I love the 60s, yeah.
Who's your favorite artist? Or maybe that's too sensitive because you have so many friends.
That's a hard question because, like I said, when I got back into the business on a professional level, I also became a contractor. I was contracting Al Martino, Jerry Vale, the Gaylords, Sam Butera.
Oh, wow.
Then I worked with Johnny Maestro, the Duprees. I worked with all of them. All the rock and roll groups, the Dubs.
So then I'm taking that question back.
Yeah.
Because if somebody watches it, then they'll say, they picked them and not them. So I don't want to.
But I work with so many people. But my favorite music again, you know, I gotta thank Sinatra and Bobby Darin because I studied their music so intense. I put so much time into their music because when I hear someone sing, a professional singer, I think I hear it different than someone else. Mm-hmm. And when I go see these people, I never saw Bobby Darin, but I saw everybody else: Al Martino, Frank Sinatra, Jerry Vale, Jack Jones, you name. I seen them all. Paul Anka, I see a lot. I go see him every year when he comes into the
But
Red
you're
Bank
also
Theater.
really good friends with all of these people.
Yes, I became friendly with all of them, and I always wanted a seat to the side of the stage. I wanted to see how they positioned themselves, how that executed that note.
Right.
And that's what I learned, because I know what they sounded like through, you know, from the record. Okay, because I studied in Juilliard.
Oh, wow.
I studied Juilliard, but I got most of my technique ability or my technique expertise from a lady named Joan DeCaro, who was a vocal coach. She was also an opera singer herself. Oh. And I fell in love with this lady. And her and I worked together for about 3 years after I graduated Juilliard. And one night she says to me, "Carl, could you stick around for, you know, a little while? I got someone else that wants to meet you. I talked about you about somebody." And I said, "Okay." And it was the gentleman from The Sopranos. Could you marry? I just lost my.
What, James Gandolfini?
Not James Gandolfini too, but the boss. It was he played Paul Savino.
Yes.
Paul Savino, and Paul comes up. And we start to, because Paul Savino was an opera singer, okay? And that, in those days, I didn't even know that. I found out after the fact.
Very nice person.
But what a lovely man. Even Gandolfini was a wonderful person. I met Gandolfini with Jackie Mason one night. And he walked over to me and Jackie. He said, "Hey, Jackie Mason." So Mason goes, "Oh, you think you're a tough guy? You know you don't look that tough to me. I got news for you." He says, "You think you're a fighter? I'm a fighter. When I fought, I stood like this. Not for long, but I stood like this." And Gandolfini lost it. We hysterical laughing. We was sitting on Mulberry Street at the cannoli place. But
we're talking Baby John's the best.
John. Yeah, the best. And
the best.
And he's a sweetheart, too.
Love it.
Great guy.
Baby John's a great friend.
Yeah.
But listen.
Gandolfini was walking out of Terramina's. We were across the street, and it all started. And Jackie went into
Another great place,
Terramina's. He went into
I
his routine like crazy. It was wild.
You know, I created this list of questions, but I feel like
we hit a lot of it already.
Yeah, it's not. You know what? Your life has spanned because this and everything that you've done is like the life of somebody who's 2,000 years old. Yeah. You have done amazing things, and you're not that old to live this kind of life.
And a lot of my dreams came true, Diane. I tell you the truth. I mean, like I said, between Jackie Mason, Pat Cooper, Don Rickles, Joan Rivers. When I worked with Joan Rivers, I got to know her personally, okay? She was the sweetest lady. Nothing compared to what she is, you know, how she...
But that was a persona, that was an act.
Right,
you know.
But she was such a warm lady, and we had a wonderful relationship, like Don Rickles, too. Don Rickles comes up with that, you know, hello, dummy stuff, and he's always abusing people, abusing other celebrities, too. To hang out with this guy, and for him to he's just so accommodating, and he's very, very modest. He don't need all that fanfare like a lot of celebrities that I know. I don't want to mention names. When they go to Atlantic City or Vegas, they're in such demand. There is one female singer who's been around for 100 years. She don't like that color of the couch. She wants that couch replaced in the green room. That she's going to be there for 4 nights. I mean, but that's show business.
No, I know.
That's people, you know.
My background has always been around that, and I had a lot of crazy requests, but I had one particular request that somebody who was into Scientology, and they required only brand new shirts, brand new T-shirts, but they were only brand new Armani T-shirts for every particular segment of what was going to transpire. Right. So we're talking like 30 brand new Armani T-shirts. And I remember having an argument within earshot on purpose so the person could hear me.
Right.
With the agent saying, I'm not going to supply, 30 or whatever Armani black T-shirts. And I don't care what the religious aspect of this is, because you need to be able to just wear your shirt a little bit longer than a half a second if you sweat on it. And the person heard it, and came over and questioned me. And I said, you should be ashamed of yourself. You really should be ashamed of yourself. I don't have a problem taking the money out of the budget. I really don't. That's not what it's about. You really need 30 Armani shirts for 30 minutes? Like, it's like a shirt a minute? And the guy looked at me and he was like, I'm okay. And he pulled back on the shirts. And, so I'm not into that whole, glory, like, looking like a big shot type of thing. That's not for me.
Right.
I just like somebody who's, like, super talented and confident.
Exactly.
And who wants to share their talent with everybody and be a normal, happy, generous soul.
And it's the old story. Never forget where you came from. Because everybody had to start at
Guaranteed
the
person
bottom.
that I had this conversation with didn't own an Armani shirt growing up, let alone 30 of them that, for 30 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, I made my point. But
Yeah, it's like I said.
who did you not meet in the industry that you wished you did?
Bobby Darin.
Yeah?
I wished I would have. He died in '73. I was around in '73. I didn't own a nightclub at the time. I owned my nightclub in '77. But
You want to talk about that?
I was a bartender.
Can we talk about this?
Sure.
Part? Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I was a bartender from 1969. My first job as a bartender, I was a general contractor. I'm 1969. I'm 18 years old, 19 years old.
What people need to know, though, that when you come from Brooklyn, you wear many hats, and everybody's got at least our generation, and the people we surrounded ourselves with had a tremendous work ethic.
Right.
Like, you're going to work.
We didn't stop.
Never.
We didn't stop. So as a general contractor, my wife's cousin owned a bar nightclub, and he was selling it to this gentleman who was going to redo the whole place and extend it to the next building. And my wife's cousin said, who was not my wife yet, who do you have to contract? So the guy says, I got to get somebody. He goes, you got the guy right here. So the guy says, okay, so I could handle the job. So me and another friend of mine who I grew up with years ago, my friend Tommy Satch, we renovated the whole place. And as I'm renovating the place, he says to me, he says, you know something? He says, you want to become a bartender? I says, his name was Tony. I said, Tony, I'm a contractor. He says, listen to me. If you work the weekends, you'll make a lot more money on the weekend than you make all week being a contractor. So that's how I started being a bartender. Then from there, my cousin opened up a place called the Seashell on East 28th Avenue.
Oh.
And I was part of that operation. And then from there, I went to Avenue and West Street, across from Terra Grossa, the funeral home.
I grew up with them.
And it was the Crescent Lounge back in the day.
Yes. Yeah.
I took over that place. I renamed it My Way Lounge. I was there for a few years.
I've been in there a few times.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, in I don't know, maybe '79, a little bit more than that, I decided to go back into the singing business. Because I really was tired of being a nightclub owner. Because when I had it for so many years, those 3 or 4 year period, I decided after about 3 years, or after 2 years, I went on vacation for 2 weeks. It was the worst 2 weeks that I had as far as receipts.
Right, revenue.
So my brother says to me, Carl, when they come in, if you're not here, they're not staying. They leave.
It's all about the friendships
So you
and
know
the
what?
connections.
So you know what? I got to get out of this business.
Really?
I got out of the nightclub business for that reason, because I was a slave day and night.
I sold my soul to it.
Yeah, it's tough.
I did. I sold my soul to it.
But I had a different vision about whatever. And plus now I have 2 sons at the time. My daughter's not born yet. I'm out till 5 o'clock in the morning. It's not really a good lifestyle. My wife and I'm married 48 years this November.
I was going to ask you that.
This November 22nd.
Your wife, by the way, is so super beautiful. She really, really is.
Thank you.
I mean, it's kind of not fair that she has not aged. I'm like,
yeah, well, her and the family, they're all the same. She's got 6. She has 5 siblings. They're all very young looking.
I mean, the picture that we were looking at
with Pat Cooper's birthday party last July.
And I'm looking at you with your wife, and it's almost like, stop it, come on now. How could she still look so good?
Yeah.
But if it wasn't in right there.
That's me making her look good.
Okay, yes, I'm going to give you that. But your wife she really is beautiful.
Thank you.
You're very, very lucky.
I'm very proud of still being married, and we have 6 wonderful grandchildren.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do they get a kick out of you singing, the grandchildren?
Well, my granddaughter Aubrey, who is 12 years old, has a voice like you can't believe. and we're rehearsing Something Stupid by Sinatra and his daughter. I know I stand in line. She's got it down to a science. It's beautiful. We're going to record that song. And I asked her the last show that I did, that was not, a local show, I asked if she would like to come and join me to sing that one song, and she was a little bit reluctant, so I didn't press the issue. And I left it alone.
Well,
But one day she's going to be with me doing a show.
we had talked prior to the show with my daughter.
Right.
And we're going to, all get together. But you should have my daughter talk to her. Because Madison, she's from Miss Richmond County right now. But she's been a musical theater child since she's 4 years old. She graduated college with a musical theater degree, SUNY New Paltz. And summa cum laude, I'm just bragging just a little bit because, that's my baby.
That's your baby.
Yeah. But she has a set of pipes and no fear.
Right.
I never instilled fear with the performing aspect. I also never allowed her to take money as a minor. Because I never wanted her to get a taste of the money and the fast cash and then put her education on the side.
Exactly right.
So
Smart.
it was, listen, you're going to do this and everything goes to charity. We're very, very charity-based in our home. So everything just goes, goes to charity.
I'm a big supporter of St. Jude.
But she might be able to talk to her, to explain to her, how she gets through it. And this kid has no fear. We're pageant people. I didn't really know anything about pageants. And she just said, you know what, Mom, I'm finished with college. I'm finished with these commitments. I think I want to try. I said, these kids are in it to win it for life. Like, they've been doing it. They're groomed since, 4 years old doing this stuff. She said, I just want to try it. She tried it. She won. We were floored. We were like, what? Kids who literally been doing it for, 10 years straight. Boom, 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 just to get that shot. We're like, jaw dropped. And it was, she's a beautiful girl, but it was her talent.
And her passion.
Her passion, but her talent, when she sings, no fear.
Beautiful.
So if your granddaughter's got that talent and that set of pipes.
She's got it. She's got the set of pipes and the talent. But
if
to
she
be
can get
in
rid
front
of that
people,
fear,
right? That's going to be
and maybe
the next
Madison
step.
can have that conversation with her and explain to her how that works.
Right. Well, that's why I just let it go. When she didn't respond to me requesting to come to the show and sing the song, I was all ready to do it. I just dropped it.
Do you know Al Lambert?
Who?
Al Lambert.
Sure, I do. Of course. Oh, I know Al very well.
Yeah. So Al's a dear family friend. And
best guy in the world.
Yes.
Lovely.
Al was performing in a place, and it was during the holidays, and they were playing. Lynn Porter was playing with him and everything. And it was a Christmas song and whatever. So Madison always called him Mr. Al. In fact, when Al and Lenore got married, Madison was a little dismayed when we had to buy the presents, because we picked like bedding and pillows, and she was like, Mr. Al is going to share pillows with Miss Lenore. I think she had a crush on him when she was little. She was like, I'm not down for this, and she gave Lenore her own pillow. This is only for you. Mr. Al can't share your pillow.
Really?
We were crying, laughing. Oh my God.
Funny.
But anyway, so she stops his show, and she turns around and she goes, can you sing that in German? Al looks at her and he goes, why, can you? She goes, yep. And she ran up on stage. She was 5 years old.
Could you imagine?
And she sang the song in German, and he was standing there going, like, how did this happen? So, yeah, we'll put my daughter and your granddaughter together, and
no problem.
she'll help with that fear factor.
Yeah, she comes by me. They live in Connecticut. My son Anthony, he owns a car dealership in New Rochelle, he lives up in Connecticut, but she spends time with me 2-3 days at a time. So
we're gonna put this.
We'll make it work.
Yeah, we're gonna put this together because the fear factor is just
right.
That little barrier she needs to get past.
Yep.
Who, out of your whole time that you worked with, that you probably had the most laughs with on a personal basis?
Pat Cooper.
Pat Cooper?
Hands down.
Because, I mean,
Jackie Mason,
you've
too.
been with, like, so many great comics.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but one, like, on a personal level, Pat Cooper is the one that makes you...
Hands down. Him and I, we had, you know what it is? It's the chemistry.
Okay.
And the chemistry with Jackie also, Jackie Mason. And I could honestly tell you, and this is no exaggeration, the biggest thrill like I said, I idolize these guys since I'm in my early teens. Their albums, I had all their albums. I think Jackie's first album was "I Want to Leave You with the Words of a Great Comedian," and he's standing out and pointing out to the audience. I had that album. Pat Cooper was our hero. He recorded that album in the early '60s in a place called the Elegante, which then became La Mer
Yes.
Catering Hall on Ocean Parkway. My father was very good friends with Joe Scandora and the people that owned that place and
Right.
the family. So, like I said, as a young boy, I saw this guy in person, and I was like, wow, you know. I never wanted to be a comedian though, but then I wound up.
But you do have a great
I hung out with these guys. I studied them. So, the bottom line is this here. You know, there were times, many times, that I would crack them up. And you know what an accomplishment that is?
Sure. Sure.
They heard the best. They've been around every comedian in the world, right? We did a show in Vegas, like I said, 30 nights. This is a funny story. This is a real funny story. So now we come back, and he said to me, he calls me up and goes, you know what? Next Thursday, they're coming in from California. They want to talk to you. They want to see you at a restaurant. We're going to have some dinner. I said, all right, I'll be there. So now, sure enough, I walk into this restaurant, and I'm late because the traffic was crazy. I'm about 15 minutes late, which I'm never late. Mm-hmm. So now I'm a little bit nervous about being late, and I got to break the ice with something because he was a stickler for time and whatever else. Because when you're in show business, when you're going to be on that stage or you're going to do a sound check, you better be there early. So anyway, I walk into this restaurant, and there's a long table this way, and they're all sitting around the table like a oblong table, and he's sitting there. I hear him say to the guy, "Here comes the singer. Here comes the singer." So now, as I walk up to hello, how do you do? It's nice to see you in person. I'm doing his shtick to the people.
Oh my God.
He was crying. He was hysterical. So, like I said, to accomplish that with these guys,
Right.
Oh my God, are you kidding?
I can't. I would be laughing as well.
You know?
Well, we have a mutual friend
And
who
like I
has a
said,
saying
the
about
chemistry,
being late.
the chemistry.
Yes. You know, being early is on time.
Right?
Being late.
Being on time, you're late.
Yes.
And if it's after the hour, you go back home. Don't even show up.
So as you had all of these like really tight friendships, who's the best cook out of all of the?
Al Martino.
Really?
Al Martino. We used to work a place called the Rex Manor in Brooklyn. You remember the Rex Manor? Okay.
You've hacked the Rex Manor.
I contracted Al Martino in that place about maybe, 10 times.
I loved the Rex Manor.
So after the second or third time, the guys that owned the place were Greeks. Wonderful, wonderful people. I'm still in touch with these people. So Al would come in, and then after about the third time, he had the comfortable feeling to ask the question. He says, "Carl, would you think they wouldn't mind if I would get in the kitchen and cook for everybody?" I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So I says, "John, would you mind if you do whatever you want?" So sure enough, he goes in the kitchen. He cooked for me, the 17-piece band, my other associate who I was partners with in contracting, and all the employees of the Rex Manor. We had to be maybe, 30 people. And Al cooked in that kitchen. He had to do a show that night. Cooked from the early part of the day, like I'll say 10 o'clock in the morning, cooked for 3 hours.
Wow.
He was great. He was great.
Wow.
Al Martino. See, Pat knows food, but he's not a cook.
What was Al's best dish?
He would make a fillet de pomodoro sauce to die for. And he made a chicken, like a chicken piccata, that was out of this world. I mean, what else did he make? He made so many things because he didn't cook every time he came, but he must have cooked about 3 or 4 times during the years that we worked the Rex Manor together.
Isn't that amazing? Oh, my God.
And his wife, Judy, always says, "Carl, he loves working with you. He loves coming to Brooklyn with you." Because, we were like, again, the chemistry.
Yeah.
Al Martino would be going to say, Europe, right? Sitting in an airport waiting for a plane. And he'd call me up to tell me a joke and then hang up on me. He died at 82 years old,
Right.
2009, October 13th. On his 75th birthday, I get the chill saying this story. I go to Connecticut to see him. I wasn't in the show. I wasn't emceeing the show, nothing like that, because I sometimes emceed the show. So I went to go see him. And about 3 or 4 months before that, he was in New York, in Brooklyn. We did the Rex Manor. And he admired a tie set that I had, a tie and a handkerchief that I had. And I bought this in New York. And he commented about how much he liked it. So I went back to the city. I knew his 75th birthday was coming up, and I bought him the same tie and handkerchief. He says, Carl, I says, listen, it's a special birthday because my birthday's October 8th, his October 7th.
Wow.
So we always celebrated, together for the years that we knew each other. So he said to me, he said, I'm going to wear this suit, this tie set when I go to Europe in a couple of months. I says, okay, great. So he comes back from Europe, and he writes me a thank you card. He says, Carl, I was a big hit, but the tie set I was a big hit with the tie set. He says, and maybe next year you could buy me a suit to match the tie. That's the kind of guy Al Martino was. Another wonderful man.
Oh my
Generous
God.
like you can't believe.
I've been in his company. I knew him, and I was very sad, really, really sad
And
when
I still
he passed
talk
on.
to Judy. I talk to his wife,
She
Judy.
was lovely, really a lovely person.
And his daughter, Allison. She has a very nice thing on the internet about the vintage Hollywood.
Really?
Yeah, Allison Martino, Vintage Hollywood.
Oh, I have to check that out.
And Pat Cooper's wife, Emily, has Vintage Las Vegas, a
I have to
website. Yeah.
Check them both out.
They talk about all the old, the year of Vegas and Hollywood, California.
That's very cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Tell us a little bit about, because I have so many people running through my head right now. Jerry Vale, come on, because we've just talked about Jerry Vale.
Jerry Vale was a very, very, laid-back kind of a guy. Mm-hmm. He could care less about all the big fanfare. He reminded me a lot like Jimmy. I was very close to Jimmy Roselli also.
We're going to go to Jimmy Roselli, too.
But Jerry Vale...
You're going to have to do, multiple episodes with me.
Yeah, Jerry Vale was a very laid-back kind of a guy. His wife, Rita, she was a showgirl. Lovely, beautiful, beautiful lady. And Al's wife was an airline stewardess.
Really?
Yeah, back in the day. And when Al got on a plane to go wherever he was going to Europe, and she was serving him first class, he said to her, I'm going to marry you. And that was it. That's a true story.
Wow.
Jerry, like I said, laid back, very, very cool, calm, and collective. I never saw him get mad about something or get upset about something. Whereas Al, if you rub him the wrong way, you got a little bit of a problem.
Oof.
He'd put you right in your place, and then forget about it.
Okay.
But that's how Al was. Al was from South Philadelphia, so
Yeah. Yeah. See,
like
he
being
was,
from
he
Brooklyn,
was like us.
like
Yeah.
coming from Bensonhurst, same thing. And he died in the house that he was born.
Wow.
Believe it or not, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
October 13, 2009, 82 years old. I can never understand one thing. He lived such a clean life, didn't drink hardly, a little bit of drinking. Ate very, very good, and I'm sure Frank ate very well too. But Frank smoked and drank, and they both died at the same age, 82 years old. It's amazing.
That might be a magic number for that.
Roselli died at 85 years old, and he ate everything. He ate everything.
What was your experience with him?
With him, I got to know him through a friend of mine, Lefty Jimmy, and a guy named Pete Cavallo, who was his manager from the very beginning of Roselli's career. And I got to know Jimmy pretty good. And one night he said to me, he says, how come you don't do no Italian songs? You're Napolitan. How come you don't do Italian? I says, Jimmy, I got a hard time. I got enough problems with American songs. I can't. So now, back and forth, I decided to record Little Pal. It's about, and the Little Pal song was a big, big tearjerker for this region, this New York, Brooklyn, Staten Island, about somebody going away and leaving his son, and hope that his son becomes a gentleman and a good boy and a good person in his life and whatever else. And if you're on someone else's knee, remember me. It's a very, very, it's a tearjerker.
I know the song, yeah.
Right. And I do it in a lot of the shows. Anyway, long story short, so I decided to record the song and send it to Florida when he was living in Naples with his son-in-law, Herb Bernstein, who is a friend of mine. He's a
I love her. Yeah, we're good friends
conductor,
with her.
arranger, and
Yeah.
we got very close back in the day. Anyway, so I said to him, I says, Herb, give this to Jimmy, and I'm going to call Sunday. I'm going to call the house Sunday because I had his home number in Florida, and I want to say hello to him. But make sure he hears the song before Sunday. No problem. So sure enough, I call up on that Sunday. He answered the phone. Jimmy, hey, yeah, how are you? He was like a little rough. I says, it's Carl Thomas. Yeah, well, what's up? What's up? I says, did you hear my rendition of your song, Little Pal? who was written by Al Jolson, by the way. Oh, yeah, sounds good. Here's Herb. He hands Herb the phone. But that's how Jimmy was. He was that kind of guy, you know?
Yeah.
But he loved me because of the passion I had for singing, number one. I was very close to my grandfather. His grandfather raised him because his mother died like 2 or 3 days after he died, after he was born, I should say.
Wow.
Yeah, and his father didn't know how to do it, so his grandfather really raised him. Okay, and he liked that connection that I was named after my grandfather. He was named after his grandfather. His real name is Michael Roselli.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I like that name better than Jimmy.
Well,
I would have kept Michael.
Well, he got Jimmy Roselli, and
did they try to change your name back in the day?
No. No one ever, no. William Morris, when they were contracting me and the other people that I worked with, different agencies, I kept my name, Carl Thomas. You know, because the name Panarella is, you know, back then didn't really work for anybody.
Right.
Now you got Pizzarelli, you got...
Had to be more
you got Sylvester Maniscalco.
Yeah.
Now it's accepted, I think. But back then, I didn't think it was going to be accepted, so I kept my real name is Carl Thomas Panarella. That's my full name. I just kept Carl Thomas.
'Cause I would think it would be difficult if somebody wanted to change your name, you know.
Now like, I think so, yeah. I mean, I'm 72 going to be.
No,
I mean,
but I mean, like, even back in the day, I'm not sure if I would be so accepting of that.
Right.
If it was me. It's like, no,
well,
this
you
is
know
my
what?
name.
I think I would have had an open mind about it, but I didn't think any other name really would have worked for me, you know. You know, I mean, a lot of people changed their names, and it worked. Engelbert Humperdinck, that's not his real name.
That was a tough name to even be given.
That's what I'm saying.
You know, like, oof. What was your favorite room you worked at? Or worked in, I should say. Tough one?
Well, the Sands in Atlantic City was great. I had a wonderful time in the Sands because you know what? I got to know everybody there. I was the king of that place.
You know, so sometimes when people ask me that about the nightclubs,
right,
it's not always what would
the
be
Red Blazer was a
the
wonderful
most
place.
obvious. You know, the Limelight. Yeah, it's one of my favorites, of course, but it really wouldn't be, you know, that one if I had to just nail it down to one. Well, so it's not always the big room or the crazy. It's the relationships and the experiences
intimacy of the Red Blazer.
Yeah.
It had settees. It was multi-leveled. We were down like not in a pit, but we were in a lower area. I actually sang on the dance floor. That was a wonderful room because the intimacy was there. And Henny Youngman used to come and see me all the time.
Was he a nice person?
Wonderful man. But I never worked with him. He never gave me the shot. Well, it was towards the end of his career anyway, you know, in the late 90s. But I never got to work with him. And I asked him, I said, I'd like to open for you. He said, why do you want to work for me? You work with the best guys in the business. I said, you're one of the best guys in the business. He's breaking my chops.
Sure.
That's how he was. And a crazy laugh.
What comedian that you enjoyed their body of work, but that you didn't get to meet, like if you had the opportunity, dead or alive, which one would you pick?
Myron Cohen.
Ooh, why?
He's a genius. I listened to his albums. Very cool, calm and collective. Not excited, not excitable, but the stories were so full and so real. They were interesting, and the punchlines were right. He was so like on target, you know. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening to him.
Imagine how much fun the Catskills used to
man.
be. If we were young enough to have been, you know, I was born in '63, so.
I was born in '51.
But the Catskills were already, you know.
Yeah, right.
But could you imagine just being?
Yeah.
It must have been a great experience for them. Those rooms must be
Buddy
full.
Hackett.
Yes.
I never got to see Buddy Hackett in person, but I enjoyed his humor. And his sister, when I was working in La Margonette in New York City.
Oh my God, I
worked
loved
downstairs. And Louis Dome used to come and see me, which was very close. He was very close with Sinatra. Sinatra was close with Louis. I used to play that place a lot, and Buddy Hackett's sister used to come and see me every single show.
Wow.
And she says, my brother would love you. My brother would love, but I never got a shot with him. I never, like I said, Diane, I swear to God, maybe it's stupidity or ignorance or whatever. I never took it that serious to really try to get to the next level, the next step. Me and Tony Darrow are close for many, many years.
Tony was my next person I was going to bring up.
All of a sudden, we're working together now. The guy's hysterical. He's crazy. You're going to see on the phone. We go crazy on each other.
When I spoke to him on the phone, he said, "I don't know if you recognize my name and if you know who I am." Really sweet and really humble.
He's the best.
And I said, like, I could turn on any channel and you're on it. You know, I'm like, yeah, I definitely know who you are. But he was just like, you may not know who I am, you know, or any of the movies I've been in. I'm like, looking at my phone going, is this guy serious? Because, like, he's the real deal. Like,
Right.
seriously, like, that's like, you know, I know who you are.
Well, he's born October 1st, okay?
You guys are all October geniuses.
Right. So October 1st, I was doing a show, last October 1st, I was doing a show in Bocelli in Staten Island. They came with 20 people on his birthday. So how I set the room up is...
That's a far commute for him, too.
Right. Well, this is how important...
I just want to make that point known because, like, to come to you.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't beat these guys. See, guys like him, they don't make guys like him anymore. That's what it comes. Guys like, you know, what I'm used to and what I grew up in. So they all came. 20 people came to the show. So I told Ed Conti, my musical director, who I put a band on before I went on. I said, I bought a nice big sheet cake. I says, I can't do this when I'm on because now they're going to have to start to serve coffee. So when they have the dinner, after the dinner, they're going to bring a sheet cake out. I want you guys to sing happy birthday to Tony. And then when I come on, I'll do it again, quick, just to announce his birthday and, you know, just introduce him to the crowd. And that's what I did. But you don't get this anymore. And after all these years, we're working together for the first time.
I think that's good. You know what? The cutting room is like a very, very cool space. I love that place.
Everybody worked. The Beatles worked there. I mean, Billy Joel, everybody worked there.
Listen, they did Sid Bernstein's memorial there, and he's the guy who brought the Beatles to America, who booked Shea Stadium.
Right.
But, I mean, everybody has played there. It's one of the coolest places, the cutting room. So you and Tony, tell me a little bit about how, I mean, I know I'm going to MC, and you're going to have to turn around and tell me what I need to do.
Right.
But so, what's the night going to be like over there?
The night's going to be, I asked him for about 40 minutes. He says, Carl, whatever you want. And usually you get 30 minutes when you're an opening act with these guys. And I understand that, and I appreciate that because you can't keep the crowd too long.
Right.
And he's the guy. I mean, he's the star of the show. So he gave me 40 minutes. And I suggested a night at the Copa. So I'm going to incorporate Sinatra, Bobby Darin, a little bit of Dean Martin, a little bit of Paul Anka.
Nice.
And these are people that literally made the Copacabana in New York City and Las Vegas famous.
Right.
They the Rat Pack put the Las Vegas on the map. So I just want to recreate. I recreated that type of a theme, and it works wonderful. A night at the Copa, between the Night at the Copa show and my strictly Bobby Darin show, I'm good for another 20 years if the voice holds out. I'm 72, 92. I'll walk out on crutches. I'll be all right.
Stop it! Stop it! First of all, you look great, and second of all, what are you going to do? Are you going to leave your hot young wife?
That's another problem. I take her with me. She's coming to the show in April.
No. When you said I don't know if I have the 20 years or whatever, I said no. See, the problem is you can't leave your hot young wife alone.
There you go.
So you're going to have to just keep this all going.
That's right.
I think I'm very excited about the cutting room though because it's going to be a lot of fun, and
that's going to be Tuesday, April 18th.
Yes.
At the cutting room in New York City.
So
with my buddy Tony Darrow.
But now Tony is such a legend. You know, I can't curse on television, but he is such an effing legend. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
For the people who may not, maybe the one person who may not know who he is, Tony Darrow is from, let's say, Goodfellas and Sopranos.
The Sopranos and so many other movies that.
Yes.
Yeah. But he's known because I mean, if you look up on the internet. And you look up his website, he's advertising the show with the patch on his head because he's the guy that got hit on the head with the bottle playing at the Copa. Well, it wasn't the Copa. It was a place in Canarsie.
I think they called it the Bamboo Lounge?
The Bamboo Lounge. And Sonny McConaughey owned the place. He was playing Sonny McConaughey, the owner. And Joe Pesci cracks him on the head with the bottle. That's Tony Darrow. So when he advertised the show with the patch on his head, I says, Tony, should I wear a patch on my head too?
I know that people are looking at it and they're going, "Oh yeah, I remember that scene. It's so
Yeah,
iconic."
It's hysterical.
It is. It is. And when you start to pick moments out of different movies or different shows and stuff like that, that would be one of those moments.
Well, the best line I love is when they had to sit down after he got cracked on the head with the patch on his head, and he's complaining to the boss about, this guy, what he did to me. So Paul Sorvino says, "Well, what do you want me to do? You want me to kill the guy?" He says, "Well, that wouldn't be a bad idea. But with all due respect, I really didn't mean it that way." That's his stuff. But that's a typical Brooklyn statement.
Yes.
That's how it was back in the day.
Oh my God! And the Bamboo Lounge became synonymous with so many running jokes.
Right.
With everyone, it was like, "Hey, what is this? The Bamboo Lounge?" One of those.
Then it became Le Parc back after that. Le Parc, which was another popular night spot. That's when I owned My Way in Brooklyn.
My Way was fun. It was a nice. It was one of those places. There were a few places, and remember, because of my age, that we knew if we were kind of dumb and young, and we were lost or whatever, we would find a face that knew us and that would take care of us.
Diane, I packed that place from the first day I opened up. I opened up on December 1st of whatever that year. I think it was 1977. Okay. New Year's Eve, which was a month later, if you would have opened the door at midnight or before midnight, 50 people would have fell out of the place. You couldn't move in the place.
At 77, so I was leaving elementary school, starting high school, and Saturday Night Fever was filmed on my block, so, we were all out. A drinking age was 18, so it did not seem as severe as like 14 with a 21-year-old drinking age. But My Way, The Wrong Number, 19th Hole. I mean, those were places you could go and you'd be like, You may not recognize my face, but, your kid goes to school with me, and I don't know, we ran out of money, we ran out of gas, we ran out of something, and you'd be taken care of.
Right.
It was just a whole different world.
Whole different world.
I remember I worked in this one place, and the DJ was a squatter, and he was a squatter in Greenpoint. And so I drove him home, and I had to hand him all his crates as he was, jumping in the window of the squatted apartment building that was a tenement. I ran out of gas. And one of the girls in the car, she was having a heart attack. I was like, "No, we have to just find a social club or a bar, one of the two." And she was like, "I don't know what would they do for you?" I said, "Don't worry about it." She goes, "Well, do you know anyone?" I'm like, "No, but 6 degrees of separation from Brooklyn, we're going to find someone."
Right.
And I did find a place, and I did say, "I'm Diane, I went to visitation, I go to Adelphi." "Oh, my niece, my nephew, yeah. I said, "We ran out of gas." They siphoned gas out of someone's car for me. I was able to get home.
That's how it was back in the day.
And
everybody had everybody else's back.
You got everything? You okay? Lock your doors. Don't stay in the neighborhood. You need some water.
When we were 15 and we rehearsed it in my friend's basement of the grocery store that his father owned, there was a diner down the block. If we had no money, the Greek would feed us for nothing. Don't worry.
Yeah.
When you come back.
That was the Tiffany Diner for us.
Never. Those days were the best days of our lives. I'll tell you the truth.
We were so lucky.
You're not kidding.
And these kids, they don't get it.
Well, you know what?
They were never exposed
and they're
to
never going to miss it because they never had it. See, we know what it was back in the day.
I got to tell you, I can't believe that we have less than a minute. This time has flown by. I have a zillion other questions that I want to ask you.
Well, Saturday, April 1st, I'm at Bocelli's with Uncle Floyd Vivino, a very, very funny comedian.
I love Uncle Floyd.
Funny guy. It's a dinner show, April 1st, Saturday night. Tuesday, April 18th, the Cutting Room in New York City with my buddy Tony Darrow. And Friday, May 12th, I'm at Z2 doing a night at the Copa, your place.
That's right. And I thank you for that.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, it's my pleasure. I can't wait to get there because you know what? It's now called Pastels.
Yes.
And I have to meet dozens of people that I haven't seen in a lot of years. I have to meet a lot.
Oh, you would know. I mean, listen, I see them every Saturday night,
Yeah.
and you would look at them and go, "Oh, my God."
Right.
Oh, my God.
So I'm excited. I'm really excited about the May 12th. May 12th is going to be a lot of fun. And that's going to be a night at the Copa. I'm going to incorporate everyone that I mentioned. Sinatra, Bobby Darin, Paul Anka, Dean Martin.
So all of the favorite tunes that I grew up on,
You're going to hear them.
I'm going to hear it. And who's luckier than me?
And I'll be doing about an hour and a half at least.
Carl Thomas, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Diane. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. See you next time.